Yeah. Check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling and flare. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursue.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host Nick Burnaby here on UCY.TV. Thank you guys for tuning in. And make sure you check out UCY on all the other awesome hosts that are on this channel. Make sure you bookmark it, check back any time of the day when you have some free time, and continue with this boycott of the corporate media because we don't need their nonsense. We're gonna get into this corporate crap later on because they've been doing some dirty stuff with this whole warmongering process that's going on to basically topple the Assad regime, which is what this is all about. I'm also joined by S.M. Gibson in the studio tonight. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. And then we're joined by our co-host, D.B. Schwartz. How you doing, man?
Doing well.
So we got all kinds of stuff to cover tonight. I guess the main topic here is ISIS because that's what these idiots are trying to get us into right now. And there's all kinds of other stuff. Police brutality. If you guys go over to the Anti-Media, we're working on getting up some good foreign policy stuff right now, but if you look at the front page of the Anti-Media, there is plenty of police statism to check out and read up on and share because this is just getting completely out of control. Now we're at the point, we have a breaking story here from the Anti-Media where basically Austin, Texas police are labeling Cop Block, Peaceful Streets Project, and Activists of America as an imminent threat to peace, I guess. It's kind of funny because, one of these organizations is called the Peaceful Streets Project, so how are they supposed to be a threat to peace? In reality, they're just a threat to the status quo, the police state, and the cops aren't having it. They don't like it. They're trying to demonize people. They locked a guy up named Antonio Buehler over a false allegation where he saw a young woman being assaulted by a cop and he stepped in. And I know we see these horrible police brutality videos all the time and we say, why are people just standing around filming? Why don't they step in? Well, that's what this guy did. Antonio Buehler stepped in and he got what happens when you step in. You get arrested and you get beat up by the cops. And anyway, he's suing the police of Austin, Texas, and through that lawsuit, and the Freedom of Information Act request that he put in, he was able to get a bunch of documents released that basically detail how they were trying to frame these guys up as more or less domestic terrorists. And that's what the government thinks of you nowadays. If you question big government, you question the status quo, well then they're going to consider you a domestic terrorist because you're questioning the status quo. That's what it's come down to in this country. People still run around, and I still hear people all the time, oh yeah, well it's our freedom, and and America, the land of the free and stuff. Well, I mean, if you're middle class and you got money and you don't do anything that steps outside the boundaries, maybe you still got a little bit of freedom, unless you have, at least you have the freedom that they have delegated to you. But when this country was founded, it was supposed to be about having these natural rights and these natural liberties that aren't given to you by any law or aren't given to you by any man. They are rights and liberties that you were born with, whether you believe.
And unfortunately, it takes occasional periods of anarchy to shake up the system. Who was it that said? I think it was Noam Chomsky that said, "Every generation really owes it to the next to have a revolution. It just has to happen every 30 to 50 years." Now, does it have to be violent or some kind of uprising where a lot of people lose their lives? It doesn't. It could just be simply that one day, if the bank shut down and they offer a new system, we just say no to that new system and come up with one ourselves. And that could be the revolution we would need. And no, gunfire needs to be done. No bloodshed needs to take place. Just something like that could be as simple enough to change things. I mean, look at the vote in Scotland now. That could totally shake up the power structure. Just 15 million people wanting freedom, you know what I mean?
I absolutely agree that Scotland needs to vote yes. I think that is probably the most positive thing that has happened on the world stage in a while. I'm worried that after they collectively vote yes, that the vote will be rigged and they will tell them they didn't win. But I could see it as if they vote yes, there's going to be a domino effect afterwards. And then other people, whether it be another country or it be Texas, saying, "Oh, wait, we can just leave."
I'm hoping for California, man. I'm pulling for California. We got to break away from this garbage federal government that's selling us and our children and our grandchildren to the banks. And collapsing our economy to keep up all these bogus wars and their petrodollar, their geopolitical chess game with Russia, China, and all that stuff. I mean, so basically what they do is they steal our money to go enslave people around the world, and indirectly they're enslaving us by stealing our money and putting us into a bunch of debt. Setting up this bogus college system where everybody's saddled with a F-ton of debt, where you can't even get out from under it. The housing system where the housing prices are so overly inflated that you gotta go into a 30-year contract just to try to buy a simple house nowadays. I mean, it's insane. Back in the day, you can buy a house. You were able to buy a house with a simple income.
And it's only a contract for your use. You don't actually own it. You're not actually going to have title to the land underneath the said dwelling. So it actually has no value because you'll pay property taxes forever. And even when you try to transfer that over to your forebears or whatever, they're going to tax you again and again and again. You're never going to own a homestead like you used to be able to. And those are just basic things now that we just accept. But we never used to have to worry about that.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. You just touched on it with property taxes. They tell us, you're free and you're this. I could have $10 billion in the bank, go buy a piece of property, and buy it outright in cash, and I would still be paying every year on it in taxes to pay my allegiance, I guess, for a lack of a better term, to the federal government. And to kind of hit on what you said at the beginning of the show, Nick, as far as the culture itself and people, when was the last time there was a public figure that came out and spoke against the system in really any way, shape, or form, and they were not called crazy or killed?
I mean, that's what they do. A long time ago, they used to call you a communist.
Yep.
And that's how they got away with doing everything they did in the Cold War, whether it's overthrowing 50 governments that were democratically elected or whether it was assassinating people or funding genocide down in Guatemala, whatever it was. Now they call you a terrorist, a domestic terrorist, because the terrorism is the new boogeyman.
Or they call you crazy. If you're like Ron Paul and you say something against the system, you're just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, when they come out publicly and say it, and they will soon because they think they have enough people finally fooled, and I think this is going to finally be that final straw, is when they come out and say, listen, for your protection, if you have anybody in your family or you know anybody that's a veteran with a firearm, we need you to go ahead and let us know who they are. That's when it's on, man, because as long as we at least have these veterans, these 22 million guys, that can do the job if we had to do it, they can't do anything. But once they call for those guys to be pretty much Uncle Tom by us, you know it's on.
Well, it feels like it just depends on whatever the rhetoric is that week. Some weeks it feels like we're already there, and then they kind of die down on it, and they go on to the next thing to scare everybody to death. This week, it's ISIS, and we've got to attack ISIS. This has to happen. If not, we're all going to be attacked by terrorists. Scotland, if they break away, what's the threat? They're going to be attacked by terrorists. It's the exact same threat over and over and over. Whether it was McCarthy back in the day with you're all communists, or today it's terrorists are going to kill you, it's just the same rhetoric over and over and over.
It's part of their control grid, and it's their emotional way of controlling everybody with their propaganda. They do all these other things to control us, whether it's through economics, getting us under a bunch of debt, getting you into a situation where you're in the middle class and you can't. If you step out of line, you're going to go bankrupt. That's how they control you in that way. They control you by keeping our food system centralized. They control you by letting the government control the water. They control you by having total control over the power grid. And then they control you emotionally by scaring the hell out of you. The average American walking around watching CNN is scared to death. They think that, remember when that knockout game was going around? Okay, and they had everyone scared of their own shadows, and then people were calling cops on everybody. Cops are showing up, blasting people for no reason, just because they got everybody so brainwashed and afraid of their own neighbors.
Well, did Syria ever attack us last year? That was supposed to happen.
Yeah, they said Assad, they said if we didn't take out Assad, then basically Assad was going to dominate the world and establish some kind of Islamic caliphate, more or less. I mean, that's not what they said exactly, but that's basically the idea they were putting out there. What has Assad done since? Nothing besides defend his own land against Islamic jihadists that we've been funding for the past year and a half. I mean, that's all he's been doing.
He didn't bow down because they're about to go back in.
And meanwhile, we let Saudi Arabia go just along their merrily way because they sit on top of our oil supply. And you know what? I really hope at some point in our lifetimes, when we basically take this thing back and it's back to the people, how much those guys know they're going to pay for the stuff they've done to everybody around the world with their policies, man. Because if there's one country in the Middle East that really deserves it, it's them, man. They should be hit, and I hope they get hit hard in our lifetimes.
Hey, we got a caller calling in. How's it going, man? You're on the Anti-Media Radio.
What's up, man? I actually work on cell phone towers.
Awesome. What do you want to talk about?
Well, there's really nothing funny going on about them.
The cell phone towers. There was a report that came out last week about how there was some fake cell phone towers, and I think this was on Popular Science, that was saying that there's some kind of dragnet that they're putting up with these bogus cell phone towers. So, I mean, as far as you know in your line of work, you're saying that they're not collecting our data? Is that what you're saying?
No. I guess they can. They can collect that. I mean, they can. We have to use GPS. We have to hook up the GPS. And what I'm doing right now for Verizon is the new XLTE. They call it AWS on our side, but what they're doing is more for capacity more than data. They're trying to service more people in one area, and what they're doing now is DAS, distributed antenna systems, and they're doing that in more in cities now. A lot of cities don't have large towers, like Los Angeles, where I'm from. You have a lot of small towers, and they look like palm trees and pines. And but here in Georgia, where I'm from, not where I live now, they they don't have those small towers, so they're putting antennas and DAS systems in buildings. So, yeah.
Ask you this real quick. Have you ever had any towers that you've worked on that the cell phone companies own 3/4 of the tower, and then the federal government rent it out or own the top 25%.
You come across towers that they have everything is on a tower is FCC regulated, so there's really no way of telling when we go to a site to do a job. We'll be able to tell, okay, what will be told on a data sheet or whatever. This is a Verizon owned tower. This is an AT&T owned tower. This is a Crown Castle tower. This is a tower company tower like SBA, Crown Castle, American Tower. But you can never really tell who you can tell who's on there by the carriers that are in the compound or on the tower, but you won't be able to tell if it's federal owned. I've been to sites where it's like, this is for FCC and FAA, like, hey, this is, and it's all monitored and video camera and all that stuff.
So
there's really no way.
I have a question for you, considering that you're in the industry. What do you think of the NSA's Dragnet, the way they collect all of our data, and what they do with it? And then, if you can, maybe a few tips for our listeners about how they can go about encrypting their data or keeping their data safe away from prying eyes, whether it's the government or whether it's just a hacker like the guy that hacked all those celebrity photos.
Honestly, don't own technology. Just do away with it. That's how they're keeping track of us. Like, I guess if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, or if I believe in that type of stuff, yeah, I believe in it. And when I'm at work, I don't really think too much of it because I'm doing a job. But if people want to not be pried on and spied on and hacked into and have their rights basically violated, get off Facebook, get off your phone, and go back to the way it was. That's really the only thing you can do, because as long as there's technology, and as long as technology keeps evolving and coming out, LTE and XLTE and 4G, 3G, all that, everything, it's going to keep coming and coming and coming, and there's no way to stop it.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because there are activists like you and like us that connect through this technology, and most of us wouldn't even know each other without this technology to bring each other together. But at the same time, they're using this technology against us. So what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like you got two issues here. Just like with the way the government is run and stuff, you got the government, which is prying in our data, spying on us to make sure that we're not terrorists. At least that's what they say. In reality, like Edward Snowden said, it has a chilling effect on freedom of speech. It makes people not say things that are controversial. It makes you rethink before you send messages and stuff like that.
I say whatever I want. I'll text whatever I want to whoever I want. I'll post it on Facebook, and to me it doesn't matter. Because, I mean, if you want to call me a dissident and you want to throw me in a cattle car, whatever, send me to a concentration camp, then so be it. But eventually that's what it's going to come to, and if it does come to that, then so be it. I mean, I just climb towers for a living, you know what I mean? And I'm not stupid. I see how things are going, and you can't fight it. But to try to eliminate it, or at least minimize it, get off your phones, get off your computers. Everybody spends so much time on their phones and computers; it's ridiculous. But then what else do we have to go to? Media, mainstream media. That's all anybody's got. Nobody's going to find the anti-media on television. It's not going to happen. So, if you don't want to be spied on and pried on, you don't want to have the cameras used against you, or your voice recorders used against you, then get off your phones.
Well, I guess that's
block it.
I guess that's the sad reality of things that we've found ourselves in over the years, because we've been so complacent, I guess, with our government. And then the other side of the coin is the corporations that buy and sell in our data. And we see this story. We actually covered it on the Anti-Media. We covered this story on the Anti-Media a few days ago about how Yahoo was threatened with a $250,000 fine per day until they would get into compliance with the data that the government was asking for them to supply them with. Hey, we have another caller on the line here. The guy that was just talking with us, you're welcome to stay on and join the roundtable.
Yeah, cool.
We have a new caller. How's it going?
What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about either 9/11 or the Tesla quote you just posted on Facebook.
All right, hold on. We have two new callers here. Who's the other guy?
This is Jeffrey, brother.
All right, man. We're going to get to all you guys. So you want to talk about 9/11? That's a good thing to talk about. We didn't get to mention it much in our last show. One thing we do know about 9/11 is that there's a congressman or a few congressmen that are in possession of 28 classified pages of information that he's been on record saying that this is going to change everything about 9/11.
Thomas Massey from Kentucky, congressman from Kentucky. He's a Republican. He read these 28 pages, and he said that every 3 or 4 pages he kind of had to stop reading and reevaluate his sense of history and put everything back into order and back into place. And it just completely threw him. Now, what are in those 28 pages, we have no idea. What he says is it does not compromise national security. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I saw these videos of like World Trade Center 7 being exploded. Like it was like 5/19. I think Anonymous posted it on their Facebook page, and it was, you could see it. It was like a controlled demolition. So I literally think that the whole thing was a controlled demolition, and the 2 planes were just decoys to just, stream everyone's like focus onto making it harder to get on airplanes and to ease. It was just more like a police state kind of thing. Like they're just trying to make it harder for people to travel and to limit the amount of people flowing in and out of the country, and just literally document every single person that comes in this country.
Yeah, that's
Loose Change talked about that with the explosive squid, and did a whole documentary on that, and I think it's true, personally. What about the man fight, brother? Huh?
What was that? Can you repeat that? Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
All that nano, my brother, they found under that son of a bitch burned for like 2 weeks after 9/11.
Oh yeah, man.
The nanothermite kept burning and burning. Yeah, exactly. And it was more than a pool of jet fuel. It was just going. And now what is it? There's some website saying it might have even been what's called these 54 mini nukes. I have no idea what they used, but it was something way more than a jet, because a jet can't do that.
Hey, check this out. Those buildings were security company, and they said security company for World Trade Center Tower, brother. An Israeli company. Look that up. Forgot what the fuck the name was.
Well, there's one thing that we know for sure, because there's so many different theories about 9/11. Really, there's one thing that we definitely know for sure, is that all of our liberties and all of our freedoms have been eroded ever since then.
Dang.
And ever since then, now you remember. Now this is after the Cold War is over. Terrorism became the new communist boogeyman, and that's now what they use to extend these perpetual wars and to bankrupt the country. And technically, they use all these excuses to keep us enslaved, because that's what they do. They do wars, they build debt, they raise taxes, and all of us have to pay for it. And all we're doing right now is creating more and more and more enemies all around the world because of our arrogance.
I'm 36 years old. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I remember when Reagan was in office with Libya and hijackings then, and the Navy SEALs going in, and the Delta team going in, and the Delta Force. Remember all of those.
Yep, and we leveled Beirut.
We leveled Beirut, and since 9/11, our liberties have been eroded, and it's passed on to another president, and now ISIS is the next one, and there's more to it than, we pulled out of Iraq too early, and these guys are what we have to deal with. This is all planned, because It's too
They're
convenient.
trying to go to Syria, bro. Syria and then Iran, bro.
There's Syria is the target next. Iran, Palestine.
Palestine's already here. He's taking that, brother.
And it all leads to Russia. That's what we have to remember. That's what it's all going to come down to.
All
right.
Well,
Hey guys, we got another caller on the line. I just want to remind you guys to turn off your while you're on the call, make sure you have your computer muted so that we don't get the feedback. Either that or mute your connection while you're not talking. We have a new caller on the line. How's it going? What do you want to talk about?
Syria is the target next. Iran, Palestine. Palestine right here. Take it back, brother.
And it all leads to Russia. That's what we have to remember. That's what it's all going to come down to.
All right, well.
Sorry, man. Whoever's from whoever's from 630, I can't really hear you there.
Yeah, I can't hear anybody.
You may have to call back. But yeah, this whole 9/11 thing, and I can see here how it's leading up to this whole ISIS problem, because ISIS is basically just a reaction from our horrible foreign policy that we had all this
ISIS is
time.
being funded by Saudi Arabia, of which 15 of the 19 hijackers were from, and yet Saudi Arabia, nothing ever happens to them. They do what they want. They sat down with Tony Blair, told him that if they basically didn't bow down to him, then, you know what, we could have another 7/7. That could happen. In a very subtle, but not subtle threat.
Do you think all this 9/11 stuff is coming up now because they're trying to hide the more dangerous effect of the Ebola virus that's going on in Africa? Do you think they're showing with all the NFL scandal bullshit at the same time with the 9/11 truth movement pushing forward?
I
think that's just something covered up by the 1%, or
I think a lot of things are used as a distraction. I think mainly, my own personal opinion is a lot of this, while Russia's kind of dealing with Ukraine and all that situation, Russia's kind of detached from the Middle East right now because they've got their own issues. So this would be the perfect time to strike.
We as Americans are, and I'm one of them. I love my baseball. I love my football. I even love my hockey. But when it comes, especially this week in the NFL with the domestic violence and Adrian Peterson beating his child, these serve as distractions for, I don't know, I guess I would say blue collar, not blue collar, but blue collar American workers, who love their football, they love their sports. They love that as a distraction to get away from reality because the world's already fucked up and nobody wants to deal with that type of shit. But this ISIS thing is it's something else. And whether it's and I personally think it's fake, because I've seen a couple beheadings already. Or not even a couple, just one. That shit was real. And that was real. There's no denying that one. But they are catering to people's fears, and some people's fear level is just weak. And it's real, but probably not as real as they want America to believe. And it's a lot. The real fear is something that people don't even see or even see coming. But it's coming.
They're not attacking Israel, so that has to tell you everything, right?
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, the United Arab Emirates, they're fucking
Did you hear about the
billionaires.
holy relic that was found in Israel recently? The last few weeks, there was a statue that was created 5,000 years ago or something.
Right.
That they found a monument.
You what? I'm atheist, so.
Oh, well, no, it was
religious, but.
Well, it wasn't a holy. It wasn't a whole. It was just a monument worshiping saying some god or whatever, and it was showing some. It was saying it was some significant thing because it was on the same longitudinal line as Easter Island,
right,
and a bunch of other they were saying there's these geographical lines that hold on the spirit, some energy from there's electromagnetic pulse energy in this certain area, and there's a bunch of like phenomenon that goes around with the whole thing, and there's like, I don't know, I want to say that there's probably like a military base there or something, like there's crazy like rumors going around about maybe like another Apple campus that's an underground, like the one that's out in California that they built, like, right, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the ley lines, and yeah, the ley lines are called into question a lot of times because it seems like a lot of things are done on those lines and energies and things like that. Now, back to this whole ISIS thing, in my opinion, if we look at these videos, and now the very first video, the Foley one, was called into question even by mainstream corporate media and all that stuff. And the videos, I mean, who knows if they're real or fake, they were all published by this company or this think tank called SITE, which has neoconservative leanings. They have ties to the Mossad and all that stuff. So, I mean, that itself is kind of suspicious. You would think that, ISIS would put these videos out on their official channels. Unfortunately, they weren't. They were put out through this SITE think tank, which is kind of fishy. Now, here's the thing. Whether the videos are real or fake, we have to question the motives of these videos. Because let's remember, after the first video came out, which was the Foley video, the calls to go into Syria, to go and start bombing ISIS grew louder and louder. And the purported mission of this video was to deter U.S. intervention, not to encourage it. And so if these guys were looking and they saw, okay, well, the first video backfired, now they want to bomb us even harder, why in the hell would they put out another video? Because that second video was what really made everybody say, okay, now it's time to start bombing ISIS.
But what is ISIS selling? What is ISIS trying to sell by putting these videos out to the American people? Fear. What is ISIS trying to sell? Fear. So why not show that brutal act? Why not show it?
Exactly.
Why cut to black and then show it? Why?
And then you got this third video now, which is directed at England, and it's basically the same thing. Where now they're like, "Well, hey, England, you better not mess with us, or this is what we're going to do to you," you know. And now England's like, "Okay, now we got to bomb them."
With a fourth one to follow, they already have a fourth guy that's coming. But why not show it? Because one, they're fake. Two, yeah, those guys are dead, but not in the way that they showed them. Because if that was the case, then they would have showed it. Period. And the United Arab Emirates are billionaires. Why? Where is their army? Where's their army? And if they don't have an army, where's their money going to?
They're driving around in Toyotas, ironically.
Yeah, ISIS is their army.
Driving around Mercedes, but...
So, you know, now we got to think about this. If the videos are fake, then it's just neoconservative war propaganda to jump us into another war. If the videos are real, then it's a trap. You know, it's these guys trying to pull us in. That's all it is.
But who are the videos made by and directed for?
I mean, that's the
question.
question.
Who are they made by and directed for? Are they made by us? Directed for us?
Well, they're clearly, whoever they're directed by, they're clearly meant for the Western population, whether it be the United Kingdom right now to drag them into war, or whether it be the first two videos to drag us into war. The audience is very obvious of who they're making them for. It's the question is, who's doing it? We know why they're doing it. They want us to go to war. We know who it's.
Is it us? Is it us? Are we war profiteers? Are we trying?
Well, I think the record shows.
Are we trying to get Syria? Is Obama trying to get elected to a third term?
Hey, he might as well, because the guy that's going to replace him is just going to carry out his policies just like Obama carried out Bush's policies. I mean, might as well. I mean, I like to joke that Obama is now he's actually Bush's fourth term. Hey, we got another caller on the line from 508 area code. What do you want to talk about?
Go on. I just wanted to talk about ISIS, as you guys are already going about. On the topic of the videos that were posted of the beheadings, I definitely think that was one of the most untactful things our media could have done but considering, you know, as the information you already posted on your website about the Freedom of Information Act files between the CIA and the mainstream media, there's definitely the organization between them two. So these the untactful release of these videos obviously goes to point, in my mind, that it's America that really wants us to go in, and it's less of a trap for ISIS.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards this stuff is just to drag us in. And now we got to keep this in mind as well. ISIS, for the longest time, I mean, it's been, what, a year and a half now, we were funding these brutes. We were funding these guys to fight against...
John McCain's on camera with them.
John McCain was over there chilling with these guys, having a beer with these guys. And, you know, we looked the other way when they went and ISIS destroyed the oldest Christian city in the world that was in Syria. And we looked the other way. I mean, there wasn't a peep of it on corporate media. A few of the alternative media outlets covered it, and they're like, hey, what the hell are we doing funding these guys? They're raising Christian villages in Syria. And at that time, it wasn't a big deal because ISIS was serving its role to topple Assad, and that's what I think that's what this whole thing is about. Why did we go in and start bombing in Iraq? Well, that's pretty simple. If you look at the locations of where the bombing first took place, the initial bombing of Iraq to knock back ISIS was because they were encroaching on Kurdistan's oil hub, and so the initial bombing was to protect the oil. I know everybody in the corporate media was saying, "Oh, we gotta save these Yazidi guys that are trapped on this mountain." Unfortunately, that was a complete fabrication. I mean, the Yazidis were still there, and they were trapped on the mountain, and it was a humanitarian situation, and by all means, they needed to be saved. But when we started dropping the bombs, we didn't drop the bombs near that mountain. We dropped the bombs near Erbil, which is the oil hub for Kurdistan. We didn't want the ISIS fighters to get in control of the oil. Now, Obama came out and gave his speech the other night about how, you know, his whole ISIS speech and how we got to go jump into this war. And Obama sat there and took credit for saving the Yazidis. That was a blatant lie. We did not save the Yazidis. The Kurds went in there and saved the Yazidis. Obama sat there and lied to everybody. Not that it's anything new, but we got to remember.
Like the campaign platform.
Yes.
Well, but he killed Bin Laden just like I guess he's his kidneys or something.
Yeah, I'm sure we all believe that one too.
Exactly. But I tell you what, I met a guy the other night.
You guys are being unfair. Obama ended the war in Iraq.
He did. But
can we mark that as his only accomplishment?
Yeah, I mean, the only problem is that he left like 10,000 defense contractors back there to continue the fight.
I met a man that, speaking of what you're talking about, the oil fields. I met a guy the other night,
rich.
And
he's still getting rich.
He was in the Navy. He was stationed in Iraq. And he told me, and you know, he was pretty gung-ho, star-spangled, you know, believed in the system. And he said that he was stationed off the coast of Iraq, and their only purpose was to guard 3 oil fields. That's what they were there for. They were to guard 3 oil fields. That was it. And I said, did that raise a red flag to you? He said, oh no, because we were told that the terrorists just wanted to destroy these oil fields. Now, if these terrorists had any sense, would they destroy the oil fields or would they try to take them and get the billions of dollars that they produce? And yet, a man in our own American military, many men, and I'm sure they're very good people, but they're over there guarding oil fields and are told that and are told lies of why they're doing it.
Exactly, man. We have another caller on the line now from 559. Welcome to the Anti-Media Radio. What do you want to talk about?
No, I just think it's awesome that you guys have this radio station going on now, and I just wanted to call in and congratulate you guys, and I just hope a lot of people call in and keep you guys going.
Awesome. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So, yeah, man, I mean, to me it seems like this whole thing obviously goes back to toppling Assad, and then we wonder why we want to topple Assad. Well, there was a Storm Clouds Gathering video that came out a few days ago called I think it's called The Geopolitics of World War III. And he laid it out right there. I mean, What happened with Syria is that Syria blocked a pipeline that was supposed to run from Saudi Arabia into Europe. And now, obviously, Europe is outside of the United States, Europe is the biggest consuming economy in the world. These guys consume more consumer products, more electronics. Obviously, they consume more oil, natural gas. And who's supplying Europe with most of their natural gas right now? Russia. Why are we fiddling in Ukraine? To cut off the natural gas. Who is now the biggest...
The almighty petrodollar.
Exactly. And who is now the biggest... what do we call it? The biggest driller of oil, of natural gas in the world? The United States, because of all of our new fracking stuff. We are now the biggest producer of natural gas in the world. So if Russia gets cut out of Europe, who's going to supply Europe? We are. Who's going to get forced into the petrodollar?
And imagine what we could do in Siberia, dude. That's the whole game plan is once we take over those oil fields with our fracking stuff, we have energy forever. And we can't be, no one will touch us, dude. Our Air Force will control everything. We'll have drones in the sky worldwide and we'll have endless fuel.
Yeah, man, and the question is, I mean, okay, well, it'll be America running the world, kind of like how they think they're running the world now. But is that a system that we want to live under? Because we've been, quote-unquote, spreading democracy for all these years. I mean, we gave democracy to Libya. Now, unfortunately, democracy apparently looks a little different in Libya than it does in other places because now Libya is a failed state. Now, we want to bring democracy to Iraq. We want to bring democracy to Afghanistan. We want to bring democracy to Syria. We want to bring democracy to Iran. Oh, wait, no, that's right. We overthrew Iran's democratically elected government to install the oil interests. So, no, we don't have an interest in installing democracy only when it's convenient, only when natural resources are at stake. For the longest time, we were propping up dictators, whether in the Middle East, South America, Latin America, Europe, all over the world, we prop up dictators, and then when they stop, when they fall out of favor with us, then we say, oh, now they need democracy, you know. And if we had any interest in democracy in the Middle East, the first place we should be overthrowing would be Saudi Arabia. They are the most repressive, biggest regime in the entire area.
If you want proof that everything that we're talking about, everything really kind of is an illusion, I was reading the other day that there was a 1959 Opel that in 1973 they modified it to get 376 miles to the gallon. Okay, we could be off of all this. Things could be completely different. This is all to control people, period.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason we're held back through this type of industry is because if we were to ever become that type of independent nation off of alternate fuels, the U.S. government's dollar and propped up system that's kept them there is just going to be gone, and they can't have that.
Exactly, man, because now ever since 71 we've been in this petrodollar system. So it's in the corporate interest of the American government to keep everybody stuck on the oil. So whenever, like there was the documentary I wrote about the other day called Who Killed the Electric Car? And basically the electric car was poised to become what everyone was going to be driving. They put that out of business. There was a guy that had invented an engine that ran on water, and he wound up dead.
I remember seeing that.
This is just a recurring cycle because it's all about retaining and preserving the petrodollar system. Now, we have another caller on the line from San Diego, 858 area code. How's it going? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, hi. This is Donna from Occupy San Diego.
Hey, Donna. How you doing?
Pretty good. I was just listening to what you were talking about, and it's interesting. I was talking to a friend in Texas today regarding what the general feeling is there in terms of alternative fuel. And so just keeping in the loop here on what you're talking about, she was mentioning that it's very prevalent in Texas, being such a big oil state, that alternative fuel capabilities are not really discussed that much. Most people are very pro the gas industry, the oil industry. So what you're bringing up, and I'm glad you brought up the who killed the electric car, which is kind of an old movie now, but we do have to figure out some solutions on how we can move ahead with these technologies without being interrupted by people that have outside other interests. And I noticed that there are a lot of smaller people, not groups or organizations, but just individuals that are coming up with some very creative solutions to problems, and they're getting press, but then it doesn't seem to go anywhere. So I just wanted to make that comment. I just happened to be listening. So if you want to continue with what you were talking about, I don't mind listening a little bit longer.
Awesome, Donna. Well, thanks for calling in, and feel free to join the join our roundtable here. We're going to be going over some other topics as well. Go ahead from 951. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I have a real quick question. Anybody been out of state, or not out of state, out of country? Preferably maybe to Argentina.
I go to Mexico pretty often, but I've never been to Argentina.
I went to Argentina in 2007 for the girlfriend I was with at the time, her cousin's wedding. And she was born in Argentina as well as her father, and she came here when she was 5, but cut to the chase. Went there for 2 weeks, and they drive like maniacs down there. It's like NASCAR. But their cars run on butane down there.
Oh, that's interesting, man. So they're already testing out the alternative fuels and stuff.
No, no, that has been the fuel for them, and it is $1 something, $1.50. At least in 2007 it was for to fuel your car. They didn't have gas; they had butane. Same shit you run your fucking lighters off of.
So
I thought that was interesting.
What I want to know is, when is algae diesel basically going to take over? Because the trucking industry is dying a slow death right now, with independent contractors basically getting forced out.
It won't. Look at us with the gas prices. Nobody's ever thought about bringing butane here. Anybody I've ever told that to, they're like, butane? Like what you run your lighter off of? I'm like, yeah. No. Yeah, for real. Butane. And we're getting electric cars shut down. So there's no hope for us here. We're not going to win. There's no way.
It all ultimately.
Well, I mean, if there was a movement in America where there was like a green energy grassroots movement where people actually knew that it was a plausible idea, if they could show the numbers to like a public funded car where we could make it.
But I think everybody's. I think everybody's.
If we could get everybody to stop paying taxes, we wouldn't have taxes.
But I think it's more about. It's not about the actual fuel system. It's not about us going for oil. It's why are all these things happening? Why are all these facts coming together? It's the control of the people. That's it. It could be anything. It could be water. It could be oil. It's all about controlling the people for the people at the top.
Exactly. The three big, the three really big staples that everyone in the world relies on, at least, especially here in the United States. 3 big things: water, food, and energy. Whether it's your electricity or your gas for your car, those are the big 3 things. And guess what?
Now, communication.
Yeah, communications are now coming into play. And guess what? All 4 of those things are, in one way or another, controlled by the government. I know here in San Diego, our water supply is controlled by municipal governmental organizations.
And we're heavily fluoridated, on purpose, of course, man. You can't have a border town with free thought.
Our oil is secured via U.S. intervention overseas, and our water, I mean, our food is basically controlled by Big Agro, which is, Monsanto and company and all their people in cahoots.
Right, but I'm originally born and raised in Southern California. I live in Georgia now. I've not lived in California for 4 years. What happened in Central Valley?
Well, Central Valley now, right now, I mean, it's really bad. It's in really bad shape. The water table is dried up. I was just talking to my stepmom, which is from the Central Valley, and her parents still live out there, and their water table is dried up.
10% of the world's food came from Central Valley.
Yeah, and there's There's whole towns right now that are literally running out of water. Now they're trucking water in. Bottled water there is being trucked in. So I mean, this just goes to show how how delicate our framework is, and this whole control grid is so delicate. And if one part of it breaks down, like for instance, if just we had a fuel disruption, a lot of water, especially here in Southern California, is trucked in, piped in, and you need electricity to run the pumps and all that stuff to pipe the water in. I mean, if just that factor broke through and there was some kind of problem where the electricity grid was messed up or the oil supply was disrupted, we would be in for some major problems. So we need to see. It's a two-pronged attack, I guess.
This is where they put the stranglehold on certain, well, not certain people, but everyone. I just read on local news in California on my Facebook. They find a guy who said, "I'm not gonna water my lawn," so he was fined by the city for letting his lawn go. But yet,
that's like in the municipalities, they try and charge you for fucking
They find the shit
not
out of
mowing your lawn on top of that.
Right. So he decided, we're in a drought. I'm not gonna water my lawn. But yet you roll down the I-5 or you roll down the 10 or the 405 and you see shit, just water just coming up out of the freeways, and no one's there to stop it.
And then what they do is they'll let PG&E replace San Onofre with the giant coal plant, which is going to make global warming or whatever. It's just hot as hell down here already, man. Going to make it worse. And we can power all of SoCal with Death Valley. We line it with solar panels, and it's all SoCal's powered.
Do you guys, any of you guys have those wind towers built in your area yet?
Yeah, I live in in Massachusetts. Basically, I live right where Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut all meet, like right dead center in the middle.
So you essentially live exactly where I live. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, I'm pretty much like I don't know if you've noticed recently, but like with the change of seasons, you can really notice the chemtrails, like especially towards sunset night. Like you can just see something's going on. Like I don't know, maybe I believe it, but I don't. But like it seems to me like there's more than what it's going, because you see them a bunch of days, and next thing you know, it's raining like fucking 3 inches for one day. Like I was driving the other day, and it was like literally fucking flows of water everywhere, and then next thing you know, 2 weeks later, it's dry as hell, and you're choking on the dust. It's like,
yeah, man, I don't know. The whole chemtrail word has gotten this stigma around it, but there was a article that came out from AccuWeather a few months ago that we covered on the Anti-Media as well, about cloud seeding programs, and they've got at least 6 cloud seeding programs in the United States now that are being run by drone, and this is coming out on, this is official from official channels and stuff, and that's not counting the ones that they're running with traditional jets. So basically, what these guys were saying in this article from AccuWeather is that, like, running these cloud seeding programs the traditional way with jets and pilots and all that stuff, it's too expensive. Because they got to go up there so many times a day and spray these things out to try to make it rain and stuff, that now they're starting to do it with drones. And that does two things. It cuts out the whistleblower possibility, and it cuts down on their costs, and it cuts down on their anonymity. But one thing I wanted to talk about the whole energy thing, considering that is one of the biggest ways they control us, because me and DB have talked about this on the show plenty of times. With enough electrical power, you could actually condense the moisture out of air, and you can create water out of just the humidity that's in the air, as long as you have enough electricity.
Well, so, one solar panel that electrifies a basic aluminum radiator, and it just condenses the air. And it works great, man, because anywhere you go, you're going to get at least something. But here, we're going to get like 2 gallons a day.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is that with this whole energy and fuel debate, it really has 2 angles to it, really, because in one way, it's like we have to do it to protect ourselves in case there's a natural disaster, in case there's a disruption, in case there's something that goes wrong with the grid, or in case energy prices go through the roof or whatever. In that way, it's really smart to go energy independent in whatever way that you can. I mean, whether you go solar, wind, water powered. I mean, bioelectric with capturing methane gas and all that stuff from your compost or whatever. So, I mean, that is just for survival. The second thing that we need to think about, like the caller was saying earlier about paying taxes, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of our taxes are paid through our energy use. Our gas is taxed like out the yin-yang. I mean, in California, we pay like 40 cents a gallon in taxes. So going energy independent, going alternative, or forming some kind of cooperative in your community for energy or whatever.
Take some money from the government.
Exactly, and it's a way of undermining the machine, and that's what we need to. Yep. That's what we need to do if we're ever going to break the headway. Because if not, we're going to end up in the hegemony.
Just like
the question is, with all of these issues,
decentralizes the system, and I think that's really important. Just by you not being an independent human being anymore, you're helping collectivize the system. And this country was built off of being an individual, being able to take care of yourself. And when we start taking that away from the individuals, then that's why they're allowed to get away with all this, because they become so dependent on the system. Anyone's afraid to challenge it because it might, harm their way of life.
The question is, where are we headed with all of these issues? Where do these issues? What are these issues head?
If we don't take it back soon, we're going to be in the third world real quick with a police state around us and no way out.
Well, we're already in a police state, and we are headed towards a third world country. We are.
These things are all possible, but I believe the alternate media, as I've already seen the political climate change so drastically just in the past year, and it's because of alternative media. I like to call alternative media our last bastion of hope, because it really is. The spread of information is essentially what will save us. And during the Mongol Empire, which was the biggest empire in the entire history, the only reason it was so big is because they had the control over information. They used to put people on horses, ride them to a station with a horse that was ready to keep going, and they'd feed the rider and he'd keep going to get their messages, and that's the whole reason they had the advantage. And with an internet today, the individual has that advantage, so I definitely see things turning around. I think what really needs to change is people's attitudes. They need to take away this defeatist attitude that we can't do anything. You need a can-do attitude if you want something done.
Remember, people on the inside want to change it too, man. So if they have enough support from us, they're going to go ahead and do it.
We have, right now, we have the technology to spread the word, but we're also being watched
we have
with
the
that
numbers,
technology,
too,
which is why we... Numbers still
3 times the size of the baby boomer generation from the year.
So we're
people
still
that are born from 82 and up. There's
with technology, we're still being watched. We're still being listened to and watched. And
I think the whole listening to us thing is really, it's just to scare us. And don't get me wrong, they can use this information against us. And down the line, 5 years from now, they will use it against us. But the more we get afraid of that, the more it's working in their advantage. The more people just say, fuck you,
but we're not afraid of it because
it's going to get through.
We're not afraid of it because we're still talking about it. We're actually on the conference call, roundtable, talking about it. So
yeah, I'm not saying
not too many of us are afraid of it.
Just off together, but I mean, collectively.
But if you were to speak like this, I don't know, 150 years ago, you'd probably be hung or shot for speaking out against your that too.
Yeah, it kind of
government.
It kind of goes back to what Snowden said, and what this stuff does is it just has an overall chilling effect on freedom of speech. But like you were saying, now that we have this connectivity, and I think you made the perfect example there with 150 years ago. If you wanted to transmit a message 150 years ago, 200 years ago. If you wanted to talk to somebody overseas, you'd have to send it on a sailboat, and it would have to take like a month or more to get there, and then a month or more to get back. And now we have this instantaneous technology where I can sit here and send a message to my buddy in Peru, and then 10 seconds later talk to my buddy in India, and then he's back to me 5 seconds later. I mean, this is our big advantage if you look at the time frame of history and all the things that have been done, all the revolutions, all the Renaissance and all that stuff. What is the big advantage we have now is our access to communication and technology. Thank you guys for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday.